All right, good morning, everybody. If we could take our seats and get started. Well, welcome to our first TDC meeting of 2025. I want to wish everybody a very happy new year, and it's good to see everybody. I would like to start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Gaddis, would you lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Why don't we go around the room and do some introductions, and we'll start down here with Trish.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Trisha Rodriguez with the Tropics Boat Tours and the Clearwater Ferry.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Dave Gaddis, Mayor of Bel Air Beach and Delegate of the Big C.
Good morning, everybody. Captain Dylan Hubbard from Hubbard's Marina.
Good morning. Copley Gertis, City of St. Petersburg, Chair of the City Council.
Amanda Coffey, Managing Assistant County Attorney. Good morning.
Brian Scott, Pinellas County Commission.
Brian Loack, Visit St. Pete Clearwater.
Russ Kimball, Sheraton Sankey, Clearwater Beach.
Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commission.
Bruce Rector, Mayor, City of Clearwater.
Good morning. Doreen Moore, Travel Resort Services, TRS Vacation Rentals throughout our beach areas.
Good morning. Clyde Smith, Bilmar Beach Resort, Treasure Island.
Great. Thank you all for being here this morning. So I'm excited, really looking forward to 2025. Really appreciative of the opportunity to lead this fine group of folks here. And I am looking forward to a year of no hurricanes, a year of no trouble, no strife. And we think we've had enough of that in this past year to last us for hopefully another 100 years or so. From my perspective, I think our goals here is to support our businesses, make sure that we're giving them all the resources that we can, also all the support to be open, ready for business, with full restaurants, full hotels, and do everything that we can to support those businesses to make sure they're open for business. We have a great spring break season. We have a great summer. And that we look at the end of this year and we say, we've done better than expected on TDC revenue. So that's my focus. And I know with Brian's incredible leadership here, his awesome team, the strategic plan we have, I know that we're going to get there. And I'd also like to take a look at, as we go down the road here this year, is making sure that we're taking advantage of all the available uses of TDC dollars. This past year, particularly through the whole raise discussion, it really got almost tiring to a point of trying to explain to the general public of what TDC funds can be used for and what they can't be used for, and how that they really just don't benefit our residents. And that irked a lot of people. They really didn't understand why we couldn't do that. And there are some things in state law that our ordinance does not currently reflect, and I want to kind of take a look at that and see if there are opportunities where we can find some ways of investing TDC funds that support tourism and also do benefit our residents. I think an opportunity there may be in our park system. We've got a great park system here in Pinellas County. You think about Sankey Park, Fort DeSoto, those are great tourist draws, and our residents, they're treasures for our residents. And I can tell you, when they're closed, we hear about it. I mean, they were closed during the hurricanes because it was a public safety issue. There's a lot of damage, trees down, fences, seawalls, all of that kind of stuff. And our emails were lit up. When are you going to open the parks? And that's when you realize just how much of a treasure these parks are to our residents and how much it means to them, not only for their physical well-being, also for their mental well-being. So I think that there's an opportunity there, and I look forward to having those discussions. So with that, our first action item is approval of the TDC minutes of December 18th, 2024. Move approval.
Second.
Okay. We have a second from, was that Copley? Or?
Motion second.
Okay. Thank you. Second from Copley, motion from Mayor Gaddis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to presentations. St. Pete Clearwater International Airport update. Morning.
Morning, everyone. Commissioners, Mayor, TDC members. So, as you stated earlier, hello 2025. It's nice to have 2024 behind us. So we take this opportunity to kind of give everyone a year in review as to the successes that we had in 2024 and the goings-on of the aviation industry. So taking a look at the history of the service levels into the PIE, again, we'll go pre-COVID, 2018, we were on quite the ride. 2019, again, setting records year over year. Of course, we had COVID that hit us. But I will restate that we were one of the fastest airports, not only in Florida, but in the United States, that saw the recovery after COVID or post-COVID. And a lot of that was thanks in part to VSPC, letting people know about the beaches being open for people to come down, get a breath of fresh air, escape some of the COVID-trapped environments and cities that they were stuck in. And quite frankly, again, we saw a real nice rebound post-COVID. Fast forward then, 22, 23, setting an all-time record last year at 2,494,952 passengers, just shy of hitting that 2.5 million passenger level that we hope to achieve. Rolling into 2024, again, starting off with a robust year, setting records in numerous months leading up to what was hurricane season. Going into hurricane season, as we all know, we were impacted quite heavily. And quite frankly, and I will talk about this a lot, where Allegiant was concerned, fantastic partner. And I think all of you know that in this room. They were very bullish on the ability of this destination to recover. They did not cut capacity into the destination. They kept the flights that were in place. They continued to operate them. Again, VSPC had excellent messaging, getting the messaging out there that yes, we were impacted by the hurricanes, still shining. Come see us. And I know communities like Clearwater did an excellent job in getting beaches open and looking like they did pre-storms. So again, rolling into those months, we did see records June, July, August, and what I'm happy to report is we just got the numbers in for December yesterday. So I can share with you the year-end figures, and we had a huge rebound in December. We were up 15% in December alone. So again, that's an indication of what we're going to see going into 2025, crossing our fingers that we don't have any types of issues, whether that be hurricane-related
no
or
issues.
anything. We won't mention anything that's out there that could potentially impact it.
It was a
But-
motion, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
We're going to have a motion, no issues.
So unfortunately, we ended up the year down 1%, but it could have been much worse had those December numbers not come in at the levels that they did. So again, December also being a record-breaking month, marks 4 record-breaking months in 2024. We also introduced 4 new destinations into the market. Bismarck, North Dakota, which began back in May 15th, Evansville, June 13th, McAllen, Texas, June 14th, and more recently, Savannah, Georgia, November 15th. And already looking into 2025, we've announced Colorado Springs, Colorado, which will start February 14th. So again, a lot of good things already on the horizon. I wanted to show you something that I haven't shared with you before, but I have talked about it, but this actually puts it into context. So these 2 graphs show our month-over-month passenger figures. And I will tell you that PIE is somewhat of an anomaly, and the anomaly is that when you talk with other airports or you talk with other destinations around, they say, well, what would your typical busiest months be? Well, you naturally would think of spring break, you'd think of the holidays, winter months, but for us, it's the opposite. It's actually June and July. The reason being is we have a lot of bilateral traffic that takes place, people coming down here for vacations with their families, and then also people taking advantage of maybe escaping our heat and our warm temperatures and high humidity during that time of year and going up to some of the mountain destinations that Allegiant has to offer, or even those Midwest destinations that may be slightly cooler than what we are during those months. So again, something kind of interesting because those are, as you can see, historically our busiest months. In fact, July is always our busiest month on record for any year. So, and then I depicted a little different in a line graph there. You can see again how it ebbs and flows throughout the year during various months. This is something of particular note, something that worked very closely with Visit St. Pete Clearwater on, and that is the markets in which Allegiant operates to and the capacity in which you see going through the destination. Number one, and it has been for several years, is Asheville, North Carolina. Now, let's talk quickly about Asheville, North Carolina, because I think most of you remember they had their own natural disaster that they dealt with this year, and that was a historic flood in that region. Again, continues to be the number one destination that Allegiant serves with both capacity and also number of passengers. But they too are kind of in a rebuilding mode, if you will, because they were heavily impacted by that anomaly storm that dumped record amounts of rainfalls on any one particular region. Closely followed by Knoxville, Cincinnati, Grand Rapids, Allentown, Indianapolis, Flint. You can go down the list. The reason why this is important, obviously, Visit St. Pete Clearwater is out there marketing the destination, and they're always wanting to stay on top of where do we get the most bang for our buck and where we place advertising. And this, again, in a collaboration with Visit St. Pete Clearwater, Steve and his team, we're talking with Allegiant quarterly about, look, this is the support that we can offer you. What markets are you seeing that you need some help in, or what markets are you seeing that you're adding capacity and frequency in? And so again, we refer back to this many occasions, and we cross-reference what VSPC is doing with their marketing plans. Another more good news, concessions revenue, fantastic for fiscal 2024. Rental car revenue down just a tick, 0.1%. Reason being is I think people are just finding other ways in which to travel. I mean, if you've rented a car recently, you know it's not as inexpensive as it once was, right? There's extra fees just like everything else. So people changed their habits to getting those other Uber, Lyft, Turo, you've heard of in the news recently if you've not used them. Obviously using courtesy shuttles when they can. But our paid parking revenue up significantly, up almost 20%. Food and beverage up almost 10%. News and gifts up 2.5%. Ground transportation up a whopping 42%, which is what I told you. I think people are shifting their travel habits when they look at what am I going to do for transportation once I get to the destination. Therefore, our overall revenues were up almost 10%, 9.5% fiscal year 2024 versus 23. So all in all, just a great year, even though we had the hurricanes that we did and had to contend with.
So last time we were here, we were talking about Pi Day. So last year, we celebrated and had an amazing event with the support of Visit St. Pete and the community. Everyone got free mini pies. We might have some of those later. We had a contest for 2 Allegiant tickets and some unveiling of a new sand sculpture that was in the baggage claim area. And then Paul Sr. joined us as well. I'm gonna go the right way. There we go. So the results, though, are why we do it. Over 45 plus contest entries where we're able to remarket to those folks. We had a 7.29 increase in our social media, which is 253% industry average. So that's what we call a return. In addition, we had almost $30,000 in earned media on the press coverage that we got, and all of our Instagram or social media accounts, including Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all saw growth in their reach and engagement and followers. And then you can see some folks there having some pie fun. So what's in store for this year? We are, as Jeff said, we've got new markets and that we're supporting. We created a new campaign, and the first route was for Savannah. The creative is an interactive piece that runs socially, teasing the inaugural launch and getting people excited about the travel. Get a taste of our new nonstop routes, low-cost flights from Pi to Savannah, the route everyone's been craving with a little peach in there, and then easy trips to Savannah for fun, food, and history. And these is seeing great engagement as well, inbound and outbound. We also updated the billboards that you see on the digital boards so that we had new holiday messaging, merry and bright, easier holiday flights, happy Memorial Day, thanks to choosing Pi for your holiday travel. Labor Day travel is less work at Pi with our friend Paul Sr. And then here's to more delicious trips in 2025. And then, of course, veterans fly with pride at Pi. Our organic, which is our non-paid social efforts also saw traction. We use our channels to communicate not only to inbound travelers, but to our residents who are traveling with travel tips and parking information and event, and all those are up in their engagement. We'll continue that this year. And then right around the corner, next week, is National Pie Day, and it's the fun one where you get to eat pie, not celebrate that 3.14 math thing that we all remember. So we've got new festivities and giveaways planned for this year. We're going to have chances to win these new Everyone Loves Pie t-shirts so that folks can flaunt their pride at home and as well here as residents. Three Daughters Brewing is going to be having pie-flavored beer samplings if you need to stop by. And then we will have a new sand sculpture that will be in the baggage claim area as well, celebrating the day. So thank you for inviting us back. I think Jeff will take those math questions if anybody has them on flights.
Questions, anybody? Dylan?
Mr. Hubbard.
So I saw the parking revenue increase was pretty significant. Was that due to parking rate increase or just number of vehicles?
A little bit of a parking rate increase, but also both, like you were saying. And again, I'm sharing with you, I think people's habits or their decisions have changed as to what they do once they get to the destination. Do they rent that more expensive rental car, or do they find other modes of transportation?
Russ?
Jeff, a couple of questions. One, what destinations in Florida are close to your numbers, or where they have growth or not? And what about Punta Gorda and the Allegiant Hotel down there? Have you seen an increase down there in their takeoff and landings?
Good questions. Orlando Sanford has been the #1 destination for Allegiant, really since its conception, just like us. And we follow closely either in that #2 or #3 spot. It vacillates back between Las Vegas being #2 and us being #2. I will share with you too, they serve 130 different destinations. So being whether second or third is quite remarkable. But to your point, Orlando Sanford, because of the nature of, I think, the theme parks, they're always going to be that #1. They don't eclipse us by much, by less than, let's say, 100 some odd thousand passengers. So we are in close position to, maybe overcome that at some point in time. Who knows? We'll see. But then behind that, you'd mentioned Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda, of course, does have the Sunseeker Resort, which is an Allegiant resort, which just opened just a year ago. So it's really in its infant stages, and of course, it got hit quite heavily with the hurricanes as well. If you saw maybe in the news, the Weather Channel was doing Weather Channel spots from their actual resort in the parking garage. So it had a little bit of rebuilding to do as well before it could be back online. So Punta Gorda has increased in destinations, but not to the stage in which we're at, Russ, and I don't think or foresee that they ever will. I would like to think that we're going to stay in that #2 or #3 destination out of their 130 markets that they serve.
Any other question? Chuck?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You talked about revenue in the parking. I saw that your long-term parking was full a lot in your peak months. Then you had your overflow auxiliary lots, and those were nearly at capacity. Are there future plans to acquire more real estate, or what's the growth on that? And then also, if you talk a little bit about gates at the terminal itself.
Yeah, both of those fronts. There definitely are plans ongoing at the moment to potentially build a parking garage, and then also expanding the terminal to add more gates to be able to add more capacity. Because at that 2.5 million passenger level, we're right about at the capacity in which the terminal was constructed for. So we realize that, recognize that. So trying to stay ahead of that, like I said, plans and discussions are ongoing now, as of yesterday even, to get design completed and then obviously going forward with construction.
Jeff, when is that, refresh my memory, when is the parking garage scheduled to break ground?
I don't have the exact date or time frame for that. I know that, like I said, it's in design, and the exact date and time will be forthcoming, obviously, for that. But the design is first and foremost, and so definitely needed.
Yeah, for sure. The fact that finished the year only 1% down in passengers, but 9.5% up in revenue is pretty amazing.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, excellent job where that's concerned. And where Allegiant's concerned, you know, one of the things you might have saw in here was a depiction of a 737 aircraft. That picture, if you see, it's kind of an eye test, but that was announced, the deal with Boeing 3 years ago. And that deal was for 50 firm orders of these new 737 MAX product with another 50 options. Fast forward 3 years later, we're going to see our first 2 online flying in February, based at PIE, with the third one coming in March. They have a little bit more capacity on those airplanes, and it's a brand new product. So again, going forward, that's really promising because it shows Allegiant is going to do nothing but grow, right? Because they got more airplanes coming online now that Boeing's kind of worked through their issues.
So are they going to be changing out their Airbus fleet in favor of the 737s? Or?
Some of them will be retiring naturally, and then they will be introducing the 737s once those retire. But some of that is net new too. It's not all one-to-one replacement.
Well, that's great. I know their on-time performance improved significantly when they retired their older jets and went to the Airbuses. So it'll probably even get better still.
Yep, 100% agree.
Great.
Yeah.
Brian?
I just want to take the opportunity to thank Jeff and the team over at PI. They're incredible partners. We couldn't do what we do without them. I think they open up a lot of markets for us, a lot of key markets for us. And then their partnership with Allegiant, obviously they cater to the leisure traveler, which is a bulk of our business, our visitor here to the destination. So just want to thank you. It's a great match. And for those that don't know, it turns out Jeff's actually a darn good pickleball player as well.
I don't know how good, since we didn't actually win the trophy from Visit Tampa Bay, but there's always next year, right, as the saying goes.
You know that from personal experience? You whipped your butt or what?
No, he was on our side.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I have a little trinket for you from last year's Pi Day to hand out to all of you. And hopefully you'll enjoy. It's not really for this time of year, but once the weather starts to warm up, I think you'll appreciate having a fan, if you will, with market.
Well, that'll be in about 2 weeks, so. All right. Thank you very much. So next, destination metrics. Eddie. Morning, Eddie.
Good morning. All this talk about pie, and I'm suddenly a little hungrier than I was before. I don't know why that happened, but
Pie and
looking forward to that.
pie-flavored
I'll
beer
keep that in
and-
mind. January 23rd, right? All right.
Too.
Yes, so great. So before I get started and kind of sharing November's numbers, I do want to remind everyone where we were in October. We were down about 28% in TDT revenue. From a number-wise, that was about, we were down about 1.7 million compared to last October. So jumping ahead now to the month of November, we were down less than a percentage point in total TDT revenue, and the difference was about not quite 50,000 in terms of that total TDT collections. So overall, quite an improvement from the month before, and we're happy to see that. Obviously, this month still is kind of a little bit of an anomaly, as we had displaced residents occupying hotels, we had FEMA rates, we had our vacation rental industry is still trying to get back on their feet, and things will kind of continue to be this way for, you know, a little while. We definitely see the similar things in December, which I'll kind of get to at the end of this report. But again, you know, our monthly tax collections for November were about that same as last year. Our hotel revenue rose sharply. That vacation rental demand still remained quite a bit below last year, as did, you know, the level of supply for those vacation rental properties. And I do want to bring on the graph on the top part here, you can really see where this TDT revenue was in relationship to the past 4 years. It wasn't quite where we were in 2023, but it was significantly above 2021 and 2022. Looking at more of a dive into the TDT collections by area, I broke this out by our beach areas as well as our inland, and kind of through our vacation rental on the inland slide, although, you know, those properties are from all over the county. St. Pete, for the first time in the month of November, passed $1 million in TDT collections. That was a huge mark. Overall, across, Pinellas County, within those inland properties, we did see growth as, those were occupied by a number of people. And then in terms of the beach areas, we actually saw a year-over-year improvement in that Clearwater Beach area, where we saw those kind of losses were, again, in that vacation rental, as well as St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, Madeira, those properties really, trying to get back on their feet during the month of November. Kind of looking at this dichotomy a little bit more between inland and beach, and really this difference here. I like these graphs because you can really see the normal balance between the two. In 2021, 2022, 2023, there's kind of where the level is for our inland revenue normally and our beach revenue normally, and then you can see what happened in 2024. Reported inland revenue grew by more than 15 million, and that beach revenue did fall by about 2.4 million. So overall, it's kind of a tale of two different places within the county. On the vacation rental side, and this is, again, from our key data sample, but what we can see from this really shows a much larger gap between these two places, between the inland and the beach side of things. And you can see, despite that inland revenue growing more than 58% in the month of November, the total revenue of 2024 from the sample was down about 39%. And you can see that, shrinkage in the beach revenue in 2024. Looking at not just our area, but Tampa Bay kind of as a whole, the story is pretty similar throughout the whole destination. As you would probably expect, Hillsborough County improved on both hotel and vacation rental in terms of that demand and revenue, and even a little bit of growth in the supply on that side, whereas Sarasota Bradenton really in kind of a similar situation as ours in relationship to the vacation rental decrease, but a much larger increase in that traditional hotel side of things. Elsewhere in the state of Florida, I broke this out kind of by these larger areas that we look at from the data that we receive. Elsewhere, most locations did better than the previous year. It's interesting that if you look at Palm Beach and Naples, which are kind of areas that are more dependent on that beach traveler, they grew the most out of this sample set. But we did see kind of strong numbers even in Orlando, elsewhere in Miami, Fort Myers, those locations as well. And then just looking ahead to the data that we did receive in December, we receive weekly STR numbers, and we can go into our dashboard and get the most recent vacation rental information. And what we've seen is sort of a similar story to what we saw in November. We do see kind of the numbers of, how to phrase this, the loss of that vacation rental revenue is going down relative to last year compared to the previous month. And that hotel revenue and demand is still very strong. So assuming that we don't have the TDT collections for December just yet, we will have that for the next presentation, but assuming that ratio is relatively similar to the month of November, with kind of these positive numbers as high as they are, we do think that, December TDT will be quite strong for us. I think that there's a high likelihood that will be the case. Obviously, we can't fully, that's just a prediction. It's not a set in stone, so we will see what kind of comes. But we saw for the month of December, just a continued high demand of hotel rooms, very busy areas. And that's short and sweet. That's all the data that I have for this month. But obviously, as we look toward this recovery, we'll also kind of be trying to get more ahead of what we think is going to happen for the rest of the year. So any questions?
Questions? None? Wow. I've got a quick question. So How many hotels are not in operation yet? Do we know?
Within the STR data that we receive, there is between 22 to 23,000 hotel rooms that is in that data.
Okay, that are offline still?
No, not offline. I'm sorry, offline. If you go over to the supply, compared to last year, we were down about a little less than 6%. So you can think, I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere around 1,000 to a little bit more than that in terms of hotel rooms. Most of those coming obviously from St. Pete Beach, Madera areas.
Right, okay. Do we have any sense of how they're coming along, when we'll be back to 100%?
That's hard to kind of predict. We continue to see slow improvement from that supply, and that supply is really kind of the thing that is going to be slowest to kind of return. Obviously, I think we can expect, demand to kind of continue to be strong, even when we're a little bit down in that supply.
For what it's worth, we did see similar numbers in that supply that is offline between October and November, so we did not see that shrink between those 2 months. So we're interested to see, of those submitting data to STR, does that supply gap that's offline shrink when we get our December and January figures?
Yeah, and take in mind the new hotels that are opening up as well. That is going to increase our supply in a new way. It's not returning to what it was, but our destination will shift and evolve and continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, just in my mind, I'm just kind of hoping by the time we get to spring break that we're back to 100%. I don't know if we will be or not, but it would be great if we were.
I don't know if we'll be back to a 100% of the pre-October and September hotels.
Yeah.
But as far as supply goes, we'll be close. And I can tell you that performance-wise and visitors-wise, we're seeing sharp increases week by week, driven by Clearwater Beach, and that really picked up in the month of December, particularly the second half of December.
Yeah. In very small text at the bottom of this, there is source, and it does say 21,262 rooms in right now. So if the normal is about somewhere between 22 to 23,000, it's about 1,000 or so rooms short.
Got it. Okay. Dylan, do you have a question?
Yeah, one interesting metric that I think would be interesting to track would be that vacation rent, or really hotel and vacation rental supply difference, like pre-storm, post-storm, and following it through the month. Yeah. I think that would be an interesting slide to add to this as we move forward. My concern is vacation rentals. I think the demand is really high by vacation rental owners to return the supply, but the difficulty in permitting and walking through that process is really a big holdup. And I don't think there's anything we can do about that, but it would be interesting to track that change, right? Because I believe the supply didn't change much, right? It's still from October to November, it's not like the supply increased marketably in vacation rentals. So is that trend going to continue, or are we going to see that supply come back? And I think that would be something interesting for this board to watch and potentially try to impact.
Yeah, we can definitely present some data of supply over time on both sides of things.
If I could ask a question. FEMA, we brought this up before. The number of room nights that were used during this period of time, and I know also that FEMA is stopped for most hotels Tuesday, I think it was. Where do you see going forward? And because it's an increment of 2 weeks, how many rooms of that were used with the supply, and now that they're coming off, you gotta make sure the demand's there, we hope, for the leisure business. So we're all converting right now from one to the other one for those that took it. And then you got 2 or 3 major hotels that are not open, And when do they come back online? Even if you call and say, hey, when do you think you're coming back on? Because they displace meetings also, and they move meetings to other areas of the county. And so that's a picture as you go forward we need to be looking at also. But I think FEMA is one of those that it was still in question. How is that going to affect us in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks? If you have any comments, I'd take them.
I don't have anything necessarily looking at this month and how, once that, FEMA stops its funding, how, what that will look like. I do believe that we did get a response about a week ago about the number of, no, we did not, okay. All right. Sorry, I guess there was some information that I saw that wasn't the case, so I won't comment on that. But it's something that we're looking at carefully and something we'll have, prepared for you, next month.
Doreen, do you have a question?
Yes, dovetailing on Dylan's comments. So I think there was a survey done about some supply and demand rooms being offline, and I would think that Key Data could help metrics and get that information about the vacation rentals that are offline and maybe some kind of gauge of restoration. And then also whether it's hotel or vacation rental, resort, condo, hotel resorts, it depends on when they were built. I mean, if they had, I'm looking at Clyde, if they had ground floor rooms, many of them, I know the one that we managed that was a much older building in Indian Rocks Beach, I mean, it's going to be midsummer if they're lucky. Whereas other hotels, that had parking underneath, or the condos that have parking underneath, we're working diligently to get those back online. But we're finding that, there's still limitations as to the amenities, many of the swimming pools and things like that. And I think that applies to hotels as well. So, knowing how many rooms that we've lost, and as it goes through, not necessarily weekly, but these monthly reports would certainly help us, because the demand is there, but we're just trying to fill in all the gaps. So appreciate your input on that.
I just wanted to share, the Opal Soul will be coming online here in the next 30 to 60 days, and that'll be 250 more additional rooms added to our inventory. So, for all things local government related, including tax revenues, I'm looking forward to having that property come online, because it will certainly help buffer some of the loss that we've had and help us not just with our property taxes, but also with recovering some bed tax here and making up some difference.
Great, thank you. Anything else? All right, thanks, Eddie, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next we have marketing update. Mr. Grimes. Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Nice to be back again. I feel like this is part 2 of the presentation I gave in December. So hopefully some of you can remember back to last year. That was where I talked about all of the places that we were going to be putting the new creative that we were developing. Now we get a chance to look at some of that creative. Before I start, I'd like to just acknowledge and thank the team from BVK, some of which are here today. They've taken the lead on creating this amazing campaign, and we, actually more accurately, I have made them jump through a lot of hoops over the last couple of months, so thank you guys for everything that you've done. And thank you to the Miles Partnership and to MMGY, our other agencies who've helped translate this vision into all of the other platforms. So thank you for all the help. We certainly could not have done this without you. So let's just start quickly with our evolution. So you'll all be familiar with Let's Shine, campaign that was launched about 3 years ago. Obviously, the focus of that was primarily driven around our great weather and sunshine, and very much, very popular campaign, very successful campaign. And so we were starting to think about how do we refresh this. And we was working diligently on that over the summer. Had the agencies in town, and we started planning what the 2025 campaign would look like. And then 2024 threw a curveball. As you all know, we had to stop everything we were doing. We pivoted to the Still Shining campaign, and everything got put on hold, which basically is a way to say that everything you're now about to see has come to pass since about November. So over the course of the holiday period, the agency and all the teams have been working to create a whole new campaign on a myriad of different platforms. So where do we start with a campaign like this? Well, data is how we make a lot of our decisions, or at least inform some of those decisions. So when we looked at the data, not surprisingly perhaps, and hopefully not to this group, 3 out of 4 people say a beach destination is the vacation they are most interested in taking next. That's great for us. We've got great beaches. And the interest in taking a beach vacation actually was up last year by 7 points year over year, according to the Survey of American Travelers. Also great for us. The other thing we noted in our visitor surveys was that people were saying that they were visiting museums, attending events, doing outdoor recreation. All of those things were up about 10 points year over year. And then the other thing we noticed was that the feelings that were associated with our destination were starting to change. Words like entertained and energized were really jumping up in the list of things that people use to describe our destination. So, sort of pull the curtain back a little bit and our thinking after seeing that data. So, for years we've talked about our beloved beaches and how the fact that a vacation is synonymous with the beach. And that's still true, and we're not changing any of that. But as Mayor Rector just mentioned, we've got a brand new hotel opening in Clearwater. We've got new restaurants. We've got arts experiences. Our area is really evolving and changing, and it's really even more than ever becoming a world-class destination. And visitors are telling us that they are going to the beach and they're doing all of these other things. They're dining, they're shopping, they're going to museums. And so while lots of travelers still want to feel relaxed, increasingly they want to come here and be entertained and energized. So with that thinking in mind, the strategy that the agency went off with was this. St. Pete Clearwater is much more than sand and sea. We will demonstrate that a vacation at America's favorite beaches means incredible beaches, calm waters, sunny weather, and so much more. So from that, they developed a creative statement on which all of the advertising is based. So I'll read through this. Apologies for reading a slide. That's never fun. As home to America's favorite beaches, St. Pete Clearwater boasts 35 miles of sugar white sand with clear, calm Gulf water. Most destinations, were they so blessed, would likely talk about nothing else. St. Pete Clearwater is not most destinations. It's local fish shacks and world-class restaurants. It's 500 murals and unparalleled museums. It's legendary hotels and laid-back resorts. It's IndyCar racing and serene nature preserves. Idyllic days and electric nights. So in St. Pete Clearwater, find just what you're looking for and then some. So that's the framework that we used for all of the advertising that you're about to see. If you remember from when I was here in December, I talked about how we were on a myriad of different platforms. This is the first year that we will spend as much on connected television as we do on broadcast television. So you will see us on Hulu, on Amazon, on Netflix, on all of those, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. But you'll also see us on traditional television. You'll see us in Chicago. You'll see us in Minneapolis. You'll see us in New York. But what will you see? Let me show you.
Looking for more from your next vacation? Come to St. Pete Clearwater, where you can rise and shine. Enjoy a few chips and dip. Discover arts and crafts. And wrap up with dinner and a show. In St. Pete Clearwater, find just what you're looking for, and then some. Book now at visitspc.com.
That's the first one. Let me show you a second.
Head to St. Pete Clearwater for more. More dollars and cents. More room and board. More time and space. More fish and chips. More rhythm and blues. In St. Pete Clearwater, find just what you're looking for and more. Book now at visitspc.com.
So as you'll see from those spots, first off, we didn't have time to shoot anything. So everything that we've been doing was using all of the existing footage and existing stills that we had and trying to figure out a new way to present all of that same content that we had. Had a lot of fun with some of those phrases and trying to sort of have a play on words that makes the two things that you have in the destination seem a little different and memorable. That concept then carries through onto our outdoor boards. So we have digital billboards, most of which will be synced with mobile retargeting. So if you see a billboard, then you'll get pinged with an ad on your phone afterwards. So you'll see some examples here: sun and glasses, ups and downs, room and board, oohs and ahs, sand and sea, rock and roll, dinner and a show, arts and crafts, again, craft beer, if that wasn't clear, and sand and sea, S-E-E, as you're at the museum. So all of these ads, very striking, obviously using the ampersand as the connecting piece between two experiences, trying to show you can be at a beach and you can be at a museum in the same place. I said when I was here in December that we wanted to be big and bold. We wanted to make a statement. You can't get much bigger or much bolder than taking over one of the busiest subway stations in New York. So if you're in New York City right now and you go to the One Liberty Plaza entrance to the Cortlandt Street, Fulton Street stations, every surface in that station is taken over with our advertising. This is one of the busiest stations. It's right by the World Trade Center, for those of you that are not familiar with New York. And you can see from all of these pictures, wherever you walk, you see a different version of something and something from St. Pete Clearwater. And so in addition to New York City, we're also making a splash in Philadelphia. This went up earlier this week. And so we have Rise and Shine, and this is a video ad, and it cycles through those different iterations. This building, if you know Philly, 8th and Market is about 2 blocks from the Liberty Bell. Print, still important, so translating this campaign into print. You'll see here how, excuse me, how the campaign works there. A couple of examples. And then even translating this into sort of more trade. So for the Sports Commission here, we're talking about balls and strikes. So you can come down and bring your Little League games or your softball games and also go fishing. And then for Jeff and his friends at Pie, for Pie Day next week, pie and ice cream. I mentioned city magazines, I think last time we were here. This is an area where we've expanded the number of cities that we're doing these editorial pieces in. So we've added Philadelphia, we've added Charlotte, and in those, don't try to read this text, it's all Greek, it's not real. This will be our Beaches and Beyond, where we will take that same approach, working with the writers of those magazines to talk about our destination, using that same concept of beaches and all of these other things that you can do. I don't have the audio to play for you today. Imagine an audio ad that uses the word "and" a lot. And we're still developing the dynamic Pandora ads that I mentioned last time. You can see here some of the digital ads that Miles Partnership have worked on with BVK. This will be all over the internet, traditional web banners, takeovers, all that sort of thing. Again, very much using that ampersand as the hook between all of those pieces. And of course, we had to repaint the van. So our activations van for Craig and team now has the new messaging on it, and you will see that tomorrow if you come to our annual meeting. And that is what I have for you. Any comments or questions?
Questions for Steve? Dylan?
So we've talked about no issues in 2024, and I hope and pray
is that a motion?
I hope and pray that's the case. One thing that's looming that concerns me and I think would affect some of our advertising plans, and I know Visit St. Pete Clearwater has dealt with this in the past with any sort of water quality issues, and that's on our doorstep. It's happening badly down south of us. It's in Tampa Bay pretty actively already. Is there any, or would you just roll back to what you've done in the past when we have those red tide outbreaks? Because historically, you have a bad hurricane, you have a lot of water quality issues, and then that following spring, we get hammered. Yeah. And I've been hoping and praying, crossing all my fingers and toes and knocking on wood that doesn't happen, but I think it's a conversation worth having to have that in place so we don't have what happened with Still Shining, and you guys had to all of a sudden totally transition. Has that conversation happened at all, or?
So yes, the short answer is yes and no. So yes, we have a plan. It's less to do with the advertising and more to do with the communication. So we've got sections of our website that get spun back up again to talk about red tide and to talk about, which beaches are open, which beaches we, shouldn't go to, precautions to take, that sort of thing. One of the things we like about this campaign is that the focus shifts it's not exclusively about the beach. So, you'll see there are arts and crafts, right? That is an art museum and a craft brewery. You can do both of those things if there's red tide. So our hope would be that this campaign would maybe just be tweaked slightly. I wouldn't anticipate us making anything like the shift we had to with Still Shining, where we really felt like, first off, it was inappropriate to be advertising a destination that didn't know which way was up after those storms, and we needed to take a beat before we knew the best way to come back. Red tide is, as you rightly point out, Dylan, predictable and knowable, and we know sort of what happens when it comes and what to do with it. So right now, I'd say it's on our radar, but it's not something that's changing our emphasis on the advertising.
Communication is a big point, and overcoming all the, I guess, prejudices or ignorance around it. So that's cool to hear. Thank you.
Any questions?
Comment, I like the direction you're going. This is awesome.
Thank you.
I think it's a great step to move forward and everything for today and where we are. Will this still be the same approach that you're presenting today for international? My concern, a comment, I just received a email from Scotland. Somebody's been coming, they spent their 37th anniversary here, and they're coming back for their 38th one. But the first thing, it starts out with all the devastation and everything else. The farther away, the more you have to convince. Mm-hmm. Do you still use this only, or is there other pieces of it that you consider the farther away, like in Europe?
So the structure of the campaign, the idea that as a destination we are this and this, is a universal message. And that's one that we will be doing, whether it's here, whether it's in Scotland, whether it's in Germany. In fact, we've been working already with the team. Not all of these headlines would translate into Spanish, into German. The play on words doesn't work in some of the other languages. So we will be adapting those so that they are language specific and accurate. But yes, absolutely, we are advertising internationally. We're working with our team in the UK right now on what sorts of activations, what sort of activity we can do there, because you're absolutely right. If you're not familiar with the area, hurricane devastation, it must have been all of Florida. We're very familiar with that, so yes.
Second part of the second question, meetings and conventions, sporting, you will use the same approach for all those too?
Yes.
Great.
So, yeah, we're actually developing some of that advertising right now. You saw the sports example. But again, what we like about this campaign is its flexibility, right? You can see how a business and pleasure combination work very well for that.
Also, the Still Shining message, and you've rolled that out to those billboards in market, like the greater Tampa Bay area. And I thought that was really cool, and this program is awesome as well. Will those local Still Shining ads continue running for a little while, or is it a clean break kind of thing?
So they are all phasing out now. I can't promise you won't see some of them for a little while as those come down, but we are now trying to draw a line under Still Shining and move to this new campaign. So it's a clean break from our point of view. It's not always necessarily an immediate clean break from the media vendor's point of view, but yes. The plan is we still very much want to advertise in the greater Tampa Bay area, but the message won't be Still Shining. The message will be, come and do all of these great things.
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I loved it. I think it's refreshing, and it certainly acknowledges in a subtle way what we've been through here. And so I just think it's great. And it really kind of talks to the breadth and depth of this county and what we have to offer visitors and whatever. So I really appreciate it. And just I think to some of the points that you brought up and just acknowledging in our own thought process the issues that we might face and not ignoring them. But great stuff.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's perfect timing when, at the beginning of your presentation, you talked about you're up 10 points versus 2023 in other things. You mentioned events and outdoor recreation, et cetera. So this beaches and is a perfect segue into what the market is looking for. My question is, when you think of some of the big events, whether it's the IndyCar race or Clearwater Beach Sugar Sand Fest or Innisbrook, Reggae Rise Up, I mean, the 10+ thousand people in that down by the Vinoy, it's a beautiful image from an advertising standpoint. Do we ever tie things like that together with or will we in the future with beach and race? I know it's not our job typically to promote. We give them, $2 million out of our budget to promote us. But can we throw some money in those events also, or is that in the plan?
Yes, very much in the plan. So particularly with those big events that have a national and even international footprint here, we're having conversations both with the Grand Prix folks and the Valspar folks about how do we use their event and the exposure that event gets to draw attention to the destination. So we have a couple of things which hopefully next update, maybe I'll have a little bit more clarity on those for you. But the idea of tying our, events are one of the reasons why you come here. And so I certainly, we fully expect to do I don't know, I'll make it up, reggae and relaxing, like, having something like that. You can see how this campaign lends itself to doing that. So very much looking at how do we weave events into the story we're telling.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing more about and.
Along the same lines, so this creative statement and this idea of the and, which is really cool, runs through 2025. And you mentioned you didn't have time to film new things. And so as the year progresses, these different juxtapositions that you have will be changing and the creative will alter as you move along.
So, somebody asked me yesterday in the office, like, are we sticking with this campaign for a while? And my answer was, if it works. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we do it, right? We've seen a tremendous ROI on the advertising we've done to date. We are very confident that this campaign will do just as well, if not better. And assuming it does, then yes, we will continue to do this and we will evolve this campaign. At some point, we are definitely going to need to shoot some new things. There's other events. There's the Opal Soul. We don't have any photos of it. It doesn't exist yet. So we'll need to get content and supplement this. There's a lot of flexibility with this campaign that allows us to plug and play as we go. So imagine it gets updated sort of on a continuous basis rather than it stops and we do a whole new thing.
Other questions, comments? Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, I have to admit, I am totally blown away with this presentation. This is one of my favorite ones you've ever done.
Well, thank you, sir.
You have demonstrated flexibility, adaptability in the face of adversity. You have you've gone above and beyond the call of duty. And I tell you, I am very, very happy that you are on the St. Pete Clearwater team. Because
Thanks, sir. Much appreciated.
we haven't known you that long, and I'm just completely blown away. So thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here. 1 year next month.
Well, I got to agree with everything that's been said. I think this looks great, well done, particularly like the Philadelphia and the New York. I mean, that's really sharp. That's going to catch some attention.
Thank you.
So, all right. Thank you very much, Steve. All right, next we're up with Elite Events. Craig.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. Awesome job, Steve and team. Craig Campbell, Director of Community and Brand Engagement here for Visit St. Pete Clearwater. Thank you, Commissioner Scott, Chair Scott, and Brian for the opportunity. Excited to be here today to present to you all some proposed changes to the Elite Event Funding Program. Over the past several weeks, the executive leadership team here at Visit St. Pete Clearwater, along with myself and Jason Latimer, our Director of PR, we've been diving into the program and dissecting it and have come up with some pretty significant changes. Wanted to walk through those changes with you, kind of provide some insight on how we got there. Most years, we would present sort of like an annual refinement of the program. This is not most years. This is a major overhaul for sure. So excited to just share with you our thoughts and our proposed changes, and obviously hear your thoughts moving forward as well. Before we dive into the changes themselves, I wanted to highlight just our priorities as a committee and as we were meeting these past several weeks. So first and foremost, kind of goes without saying, but it's worth reiterating here, being good stewards of the funding. That's always top priority. Number two, returning to previous and higher funding levels. So 5, 6, 7 years ago, there were changes to the guidelines that lowered the maximums. We are now proposing a return to those maximums, and I'll walk through that here shortly. Sufficient support for new events. So new events under the previous guidelines were capped at $15,000 in support. We've now kind of strike that away and made it a bit more flexible, and it truly depends on the event and what value it brings to the table. So sufficient support for new events. Continue to drive those top tier events. So the true elite of the elite events, we're able to support them in substantial ways. And then setting expectations with funding ranges. The previous verbiage included an up to funding amount, which was, for better or worse, kind of glossed over by some of the organizers who would make assumptions about their funding would be the maximum amount. Well, we're now establishing a range so we can try to set expectations. They will fit somewhere within that range. And then flexibility to receive requests throughout the year. Historically, we've had one funding cycle, and if you made it, great, we would look at it. If you didn't, we'll see you next year. But now we've worked in some verbiage where we can actually receive some requests throughout the year, all dependent if we have funding available. The guidelines, all right, let's jump into some of the changes here, and I believe you have access to both clean copies of the new proposed guidelines and also the red line version, so you can see the exact changes. The first big domino to fall was the change to the Tourist Development Tax Plan, the TDT plan. Funding for events, the cap was increased from $2 million to $3 million. So that really opened up a lot of opportunity for us to make these proposed changes. So that, again, that was the first domino to fall. We've increased the funding maximum. So last year was capped at $150,000. Now we're up to $250,000 for those Category 1 elite events, elite of the elite. We've clarified the broadcast verbiage, so must be affiliated with a network cable company. A good example of that would be Peacock. If something is streamed on Peacock, well, that's affiliated with NBC. We would consider that a broadcast, and not so much those events that have maybe a mom and pop type streaming service with limited exposure there. So we've clarified that. We've introduced a new funding criteria, which is PR and media coverage. So there are some really tremendous events that do a lot of great PR work, but they really haven't been acknowledged or maybe fit into a particular category. They would kind of miss out if they're not nationally broadcast. But they do some great things from a PR standpoint. We wanted to basically capture that and recognize that. Introducing eco-friendly practices as a consideration. So when we launch our application later this spring, we will be asking for their sustainability plans. And we are curious how they plan to produce a sustainable event and how they contribute from that standpoint. How we factor that into the overall scoring is to be determined. We'll have more on that later, but we're excited to just kind of get to know these events from an eco-friendly standpoint. We've eliminated cycle 2, and like I said on the previous slide, we will now accept applications year-round. That is, of course, contingent on if funds are available after the main cycle. So the meat of the changes will be funding categories and eligibility and the criteria. So here's a quick snapshot. So category 1 would be events that check all 3 boxes. They have 50,000 attendees or more, drive at least 15,000 room nights, have 500,000 broadcast views, and again, our emphasis on the range. If they check all 3 boxes, they would receive funding in that range. Category 2, you could almost consider this like a 1A, 1B scenario with category 1. They would need to check 2 out of the 3 boxes, so attendance, room nights, and then 100,000 views, and here's where we've introduced the PR media coverage as well. So checking 2 out of those 3 boxes. Category 3 is now 1 out of those 3 boxes, 20,000 attendees, 7,500 room nights, or 500,000 broadcast views and a mix of PR coverage there. And you can see the funding ranges. And so we keep scaling down here. So category 4 must meet or exceed 10,000 room nights or 10,000 attendees or 3,000 room nights. And then category 5 is that catch-all for you hit the 1 requirement, which is 5,000 attendees, up to $25,000. So I did a side-by-side comparison here, so you could see kind of the previous guidelines and what we're proposing moving forward. So category 1, previously you had to check 1 out of the 2 boxes, exceed 50,000 attendees or room nights, but you must have a broadcast of 100,000 views. Again, we've increased that to 500,000 views, and you have to hit the other 2 criteria. So this wasn't about making it easier for events to get funding. It was more so about recognizing those true elite events that check all the boxes. Category 2, previously it was, again, just you needed to cross 1 or the 2 thresholds, 15,000 attendees or 4,500 room nights. This is now a step up. You also receive funding up to 7,500 or 75,000, but now you can see you could receive up to 150,000 if you can check 2 out of those 3 boxes in the proposed plan. And then category 3, 1 of 2 thresholds must be met, and now it's 1 of 3 thresholds must be met, but we've given them the opportunity to come to the table with a PR plan or a broadcast. So category 4 was strictly 7,500 attendees, and now it's 10,000 attendees or 3,000 room nights, and the funding levels have gone up slightly there. And then category 5 was dedicated to new events last year, so again, capped at 15,000. This year, category 5 is more of a destination enhancement style event, but that funding is capped at 25,000. So you can see across the board, the caps have all kind of scaled up accordingly, and that's because of the increase of the budget from $2 million to $3 gives us an opportunity to do that. New events can place anywhere in any of these categories. So, we would obviously ask for all the information through the application process. Show us your media plans, show us your marketing plans, and if it's something of value and of substance to us, we have that kind of flexibility to place it in a higher category if we see fit. That's it for the meat of the changes. I did want to walk through kind of the timeline moving forward. So the next steps would be presenting these changes to the BCC and for their review and approval at the end of February. Assuming that passes, we would then launch the fiscal year 26 timeline and application process on March 3rd. We would host a public information meeting where we would roll or explain all these changes to the organizers. We've hosted webinars here the past couple years that's been really helpful, and this would be an important one because there are so many changes. And then we'd give folks a full month to apply. The deadline would be Friday, April 4th. And at that point, we would go into our review process, and you can see bringing you our recommendations on June 25th. So that's it for the presentation. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Just fire away.
All right, Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. On that page that had the criteria comparison, previous and proposed, yeah, right there. Do you have I know you have a sense of the number of events in each of those categories under previous. As you've looked at those, what's your thought as to sustaining the level that they're at or dropping or, that kind of thing? Do you have a sense of that?
We've definitely tested out, various models. And this one, if we kind of translated this year's crop of events, which we had 33 in the program this year, if we translated those over to the new program, we would have spent somewhere in the range of like 2.6 million. So we would still have a little bit of wiggle room underneath the $3 million cap to, accept additional applications. So we were comfortable with having like a little bit of breathing room there.
And the second question, just what do you see like historically on the number of new events that we kind of are funding each year? Would you say we're another 3 or 4, 5 or 6?
It's honestly been more of a trickle, 1 or 2 events. And I think that the cap of 15,000 is kind of a deterrence. So the fact that we can open that up and possibly offer additional support, we're hopeful it'll lead to a spike in some applications from new
Under
events.
the new funding, you're anticipating still having a little, as you say, a little room in there.
Bingo.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions? Clyde?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great presentation. Thank you, Craig. I think the red line was really helpful also, be able to follow through with that. A question on the PR. What type of items will qualify under the PR, like social media, email blast, or what qualifies for that?
Yeah, kind of TBA on that front. We will be asking for sort of their PR plan, and it could be a wide range of things. I think we're looking for more like impactful, higher exposure type opportunities. So a great example is Lisa Chandler with Sugar Sand Festival. Past 2 years, she's been on the Kelly Clarkson Show. So that's not a true broadcast by our definition of her event, but it's amazing PR. So those types of things like that would resonate a little bit more, but we would certainly factor in, like, if there's a really great social media plan, then sure, we'll look at that and consider that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
And Clyde, just to add on to that, I think what we're looking for there is we don't want to, certainly we'll accept when they have ideas and they just bring those to us in their applications about PR opportunities like that. Great, but the whole point of what we're doing here is, in placing that in there, is we're encouraging the events to go out and think of things to do such as that. It costs money. And we want to be able to partner with them and provide funding for those opportunities. If they're willing to go out and do that on their own, we'll help them through funding that to support it. And then the last 2 things I wanted to note on here, just to make sure that they were, everyone was aware of them, is that we're asking more of every level of the events. However, we are willing to participate and fund them at a higher level if they meet those standards and if they incorporate those sort of opportunities in their plans. And then that category 5 there, the new one, just a reminder that is elite. That's not considered an elite event. That's considered a destination enhancement event. And those we will do administratively. So we won't bring those. We'll obviously make you aware of them, but we will do those administratively. And then any leftover funding that's not utilized in the program, we can spend on other events. Or let's take, for example, an opportunity comes up, we don't have that money allocated to an event, we would then be able to take that funding and utilize it on additional marketing opportunities. So just wanted to make sure we're clear on that.
Great. Any other questions? Dylan? And then Chuck?
These ranges, so like in category 150 to 250, that's a pretty hefty range. So what's the metrics or drivers to decide if you qualify in category 1, what's the difference between 150 and 250? Is that a range of that threshold? What's the performance metric there?
Yeah, I think
Is that administrative or is that BCC driven?
I think in those instances, we would compare, and kind of to Brian's point just now, like who's being more creative, who's being more impactful with those dollars. Are they spending it all on marketing? Well, that's fantastic. Or do they have other campaigns that they're going to contribute to? Or is it more so just, a basic plan? And I think we want to incentivize folks to come to the table with some really great ideas and plans, and we will support those accordingly. But yeah, it's going to be case-by-case basis.
And I think an easy way to say that is if you do the minimum, we would likely recommend the minimum. If you go above and beyond, we would likely recommend additional funding towards the top end of that scale.
So it would be a staff recommendation.
So the way the elite events work is we review them, we score them internally with the committee, and then we bring our recommendations here to the TDC. We look for a recommendation from the TDC, and then we take those recommendations to the BCC for ultimate approval.
Chuck? Thank you. It was last year was a very lively discussion. I can tell it was one of our more active debates, you might say, with the TDC on how those dollars were recommended, and then we certainly had some input and made changes. Brian and his team listened to us, and so I applaud you for that. My question this morning is, well, first I want to thank you. You've listened to the concerns of the folks that have had events. You've listened to the BCC and the TDC, and it's been a lot of work to change this elite event guideline. So, thank you. We've been typically reactionary. When folks come to us, we listen to their story and judge it accordingly. Is there going to be a time when we, or maybe you already are, that's really my question, instead of reactive, proactive, are we looking for a songwriter festival that they have around the state? Are the events that we're going out to chase saying, hey, look at us, if you'll come look at our destination, we have these funding programs to help? So that's really the question from a marketing standpoint for events.
You want to take it?
Yeah, and the answer is yes, we are. And that was heavily considered when we went through this and proposed these changes. And that's why when Craig ran the numbers on, okay, if we look at last year and previous years, if all things equal, those same events come, what do we calculate that to be? Obviously, with the additional funding in this program, you see we wouldn't spend all that money. There'd be available funds still. And that's intentional because we are actively and always talking to event organizers near and far about bringing new events to the destination. And so the thought process would be with some of that leftover money and some of that funding is that we could take that and use that to support bringing a new event to the destination rather than going and saying, taking that funding from Steve's advertising and marketing budget. We've got additional funds here for true elite events.
Thank you. Nice job.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, Clyde.
Just one question. If someone was working on their PR plan, is there someone that they could get with to talk to make sure that they're on target before submitting?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of field the request and loop in appropriate parties as needed. Yep.
I think that'll be helpful for some since it's new criteria that's being looked at to make sure they're on track.
Yep.
Great.
And that'll be a big part of the public information meeting too, is kind of walking through our expectations from that.
Thank you.
I've got a quick question. So with Tropicana Field out of commission for this year, are we going to be missing out on any events that maybe we're looking at coming but now are not coming because of that? And do we have any opportunities of maybe trying to replace those with some smaller events elsewhere in the county?
More of a business development type question. I know, things like the Savannah Bananas were scheduled for Tropicana Field. There's an extremely large gymnastics event typically in February that I don't believe is happening. So yeah, there's definitely been some impacts from that standpoint, but yeah, I'll kind of need to loop in the sports and the biz dev team from a programming standpoint.
Go for it.
Typically, in a year, if I remember correctly, a Tropicana Field chair, 81 baseball games, and approximately 60 to 75 other events during the year. That would include 20 or so graduations. You're talking about home shows. In the past, it's been Enchant, the gymnastics, Savannah Bananas. And so, yeah, it'll be a year that those will be displaced, for sure. I think there has been some talk about some of those home shows moving to different locations because they're able to do that in the area. The other ones, you've seen Savannah Bananas are moving to Raymond James. They also added a date in Miami. That obviously doesn't help us. So, yeah, there are probably, if I had to guess, 40 to 50 daily events that will be displaced in 2025.
That's an impact.
Yeah.
And there was, if I could add on to that, there was one elite event that the Rays had planned on producing their own concert festival, and then that got scrapped as well. But that was in the elite event program.
Yep. I might add some of that impact, though. The graduations are coming to the Sound, so we're keeping 12. I think we're having 12 this year.
That's good.
And then Savannah Bananas moved to Raymond James Stadium, and I think they ended up selling more tickets because they have bigger capacity. And what we find in Clearwater is, sometimes, that's offset because a lot of those folks who go to the Raymond James Stadium for large events like the one they're having, they'll end up staying over in Clearwater Beach for that anyway. So it, definitely going to lose some, but I think there's some shifting that it should lessen it some.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I would just add, we would look for a motion on this one.
Oh, yep. All right.
Second.
Okay, so a second from Copley and, motion from Copley, second from Russ. Okay. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, Brian, you're up.
So I don't have much to say this week or this month under my report. I do just want to reiterate my thanks to our team back there and the great work that they continue to do in the face of adversity. Over the last 4 or 5 months, if anyone's counting, this is the 4th campaign that we would have had in some way, shape, or form, and that doesn't happen overnight. That only happens with a large, dedicated team that works around the clock. So I can't thank them enough, everyone who was involved in this campaign, these campaigns, for their work on those. And I echo the comments that you all made. This is really cool to be a part of, and I'm incredibly excited about this campaign and its future. So thank you. And by the way, I hope to see most of you tomorrow at 2:30 at our annual Partner Summit, just across the bridge at the Wyndham Grand Clearwater Beach from 2:30 to 5 o'clock. It's going to be a great event, and we're looking forward to it. Sold out, so all of our friends will be there.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Brian. All right, board member comments? Clyde.
I would just, again, like to compliment Brian for putting such a great team together. It shows what can be done when you're fully staffed with qualified people, and it's just amazing where we're going to take the county and all of us. So congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Dave?
I'm excited to be back. I just love this
We're
group.
excited to have you back.
Yeah, I have to sit on my hands because I can't vote, but I do like being here and being a part of this energy and the exciting things that go on in Pinellas County. So great. Looking forward to working with you in the coming year.
Anything else? I got one quick update for you. I got a call yesterday morning from Congresswoman Luna, and we had a conversation about beach nourishment. So the funding has been approved, and she assured me that with a new administration starting on January 20th, that our issues with the Army Corps of Engineers would be resolved. So, yeah. Oh, did you hear that? Okay, so it hasn't happened yet, but anyways, but that was a great call to get, and I just want to thank her publicly for her persistence, her hard work, and her leadership on that issue. So we look forward to maybe with a phone call and a stroke of a pen that issue goes away for us. So yeah. So unless there's anything else for the good of the order, we're adjourned. Okay, thank you.